We love to talk about living in this digital wireless world, right? Everything's just out there in the air. But what if I told you that the entire global internet, and I mean all of it, relies on a massive, hidden, physical network? Well, today, we're going to pull back that curtain and look at the incredibly high-stakes race to control the internet's real backbone. So let's just start with a really basic question. When you save a file to the cloud, where does it actually go? Is it just floating up there somewhere, bouncing between satellites in orbit? The answer, and this might surprise you, is a really simple no. Not even close. The reality is, the cloud is very much on the ground. It's connected by millions of miles of fiber optic cables, snaking across the deepest, darkest parts of our oceans. In fact, get this, over 99% of all international data travels through these physical, undersea cables. Satellites, they handle less than 1%, and that's mostly because of latency. The time it takes for a signal to travel all the way up to space and back down again is just way too slow for what we need today. At its heart, the internet is a wired submarine network. And that brings us to the internet's biggest, most important physical secret. In this physical world, the laws of physics are king, and there's one rule that trumps all the others. Speed is everything. And when we talk about speed online, we're really talking about something called latency. It's the delay, right? The time it takes for a little packet of data to get from point A to point B. And since data travels through fiber at pretty much the speed of light, the single biggest factor in cutting down that delay is physical distance. It's simple. A shorter path means faster data, period. Now you might be thinking, why does a millisecond, a thousandth of a second, even matter? Well, for high-frequency traders on Wall Street, a 1 millisecond edge can be worth hundreds of millions of dollars a year. For the cloud giants, it means their services feel instantaneous. For you, it's the difference between a perfectly smooth online game and that infuriating, choppy lag. And for AI, it's about training these enormous models way faster by syncing up data across the globe. So, if the shortest physical path always wins, then geography is destiny. And this is where a huge icy island in the North Atlantic suddenly becomes maybe the most strategic piece of real estate for the future of the internet. We are talking about the Greenland shortcut. So right now, if you want to send data from, say, Tokyo to London, it has to take the long way around. The cable has to snake through the South China Sea, go all the way across the Indian Ocean, and then up through these really vulnerable choke points like the Red Sea and the Suez Canal. Places where one ship getting stuck can disrupt the whole thing. That whole journey is a mind-boggling 23,000 kilometers. But what if you could just go over the top of the world? That's the whole idea behind these new projects, like the Far North Fiber Cable. It's a plan to cut directly across the Arctic, using Greenland as a crucial landing spot. And that new Arctic route, it's just 14,000 kilometers. Let that sink in. That's a path that is 40% shorter. In a world where every single millisecond is worth a fortune, a 40% cut in physical distance is an absolute game changer. It's a physical, uncopyable advantage that is literally baked into the geography of the planet. And, of course, this isn't just some neat technical trick. This is a massive economic opportunity. This is about turning a basic law of physics into a multi-billion-dollar revenue machine. The business model couldn't be simpler. It's all about transit fees. Think of it like a toll road. The company that owns the cable charges other companies for every bit of data that passes through it. And when you own the absolute shortest path, you essentially have a geographic monopoly. That gives you incredible pricing power. So what's a shortcut like this actually worth? Well, a pretty conservative projection just for one major cable puts the 10-year revenue at over $2.25 billion. That's the baseline value of this physical advantage. But in a more aggressive scenario, where Greenland becomes the central hub for all Arctic data traffic, that number just explodes to a potential $11 billion in revenue. And who's lining up to pay for this? Oh, just the biggest players on the planet. For them, this speed isn't a luxury, it's a core operational need. Tech giants like Google and Meta have to sync their massive data centers. Financial firms need that millisecond edge to make trades. And governments need secure, fast communication routes for national security. Okay, so all of this is setting the stage for a really high-stakes geopolitical race, because whoever builds these Arctic routes first gets to control the fastest data highway between continents. And this isn't science fiction. This race is happening right now. mostly because melting Arctic ice is finally making these routes physically possible, and a lot of the old cables are just getting. And this really lays out the strategic chessboard. On one side, you have the US and its allies, who kind of have a head start with projects like Far North Fiber and a military presence in Greenland. But on the other side, China is moving fast and aggressively with its Polar Silk Road plan, trying to build a parallel infrastructure that it controls. And the risk here isn't just about business competition, it's about security. If an adversary controls a cable, they can cut it, and that could cripple economies in an instant. And look, this isn't some far-off, distant future scenario. This is happening as we speak. Companies like NORDUnet are literally out there right now mapping the Arctic seabed. The foundational work is happening over the next 2 years, with a plan for the first big Arctic cable to go live by 2028. The race has already started. And this is the most crucial point of all. These cables, once they're laid, they last for over 25 years. So whoever wins this race doesn't just get a temporary lead, no, they lock in their geographic and economic dominance for an entire generation. This quote just sums it all up perfectly. Getting there first isn't just about making some short-term profit. It's about establishing who sets the rules for global data flow for the next quarter of a century or even longer. So, as we wrap this up, it's pretty clear that the physical map of the internet is being completely redrawn. The Arctic shortcut, well, it's inevitable. The physics are undeniable, and the economics are just too compelling. So the only real question left, the big geopolitical question, is who's going to build it first?